For the firms that are already paperless, it's just making sure that the systems they have in place are serving them as best they can. We don't want lawyers having to type names and addresses in every single letter when we've got that in the matter. And if we're merging into Word, that we're pre-populating all the standard stuff. There's so much that needs to be done for a law firm to work through a matter. And we want to keep the lawyers focused on doing the value adds and not just being administration monkeys.
Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we're going to be talking about technology for law firm owners. Really excited to jump into this. For those of you who don't know, before I became an accountant and then a business advisor, business coach, focusing on law firms, I spent 20 years in the IT industry. Have quite the background when it comes to technology, was exposed to a lot of different businesses and their technical environments. And I also did do some work in a fairly large law firm in Manhattan for a period of time. The company I was working for had a contract with them, and I was in their office every day for a number of months. But what's interesting is that we served, I don't know, 500 small businesses. We had one law firm as a client. And it's not that it's not that they were focused on other industries. It's that there were not enough law firms that recognized the need or the value in investing in their technology. And it's wild to think of it that way, but it's the truth, and it's the reality, and lawyers know it. I mean, legal tech has been playing catch up for the last 10 years. 15 years ago, you probably 50% of the law firms out there didn't have a computer in the office. Or if they did, it was so that they could look up on their Westlaw library. But practice management software was fairly non-existent. The value of it wasn't seen. You weren't allowed to market the way that you're allowed to market today. I mean, there's a lot of things that have changed over time in the legal industry that has now facilitated or allowed technology to really take its stance and take its place. And now with the new movement of AI, which I just had a whole conversation with Mitch Asser, who we shared that interview recently with you. With the everything that's going on with AI, there's a whole new world of technology that we now need to become familiar with and think about adopting into our practice. So our guest today is somebody who has a technical background, is very passionate about legal, really moving forward when it comes to using technology in the best way possible. And I'm excited to jump into this conversation with her. So Karen McDonald is the founder, accountant, and technologist of Wise Owl Legal Software and Cascade Accounting. She's an expert on how law firms should be embracing tech solutions to get back their time, which we know for lawyers is very valuable. So I'm excited to have Karen here today. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Moshe. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So Karen, I like to do this for every one of our guests. We start off with something really easy. We'll give you a nice slow pitch right across the plate for you to hit one out of the park. So tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are right now, which is, basically running a business that provides practice management software for law firms. But you had to have a journey that got you there. So give us the Cliff Notes version of how in the world you found yourself where you are today.
Okay. From when I left school, I had an absolute fascination about computers. From before I left school, I had a mum who worked in a law firm and used to bring home her 32-column dissection book for me to balance her trust account when she's made mistakes. So those two things are right back at the beginning of my career. I have worked in accounting firms most of my career, and a lot of the firms I was with had lawyer clients. So I've been exposed to lawyers all along. When I started working for myself, it was, what's different? What can I do? Where can I niche? And my expertise was lawyers and trust accounting and things like that. And so that is where I started my road to practice management, came in, helped a lot of lawyers who had issues with their trust accounting. Actually, for a number of years in the 80s and 90s, I had an auditor who'd say, I'd audit this trust account after this girl's been and cleaned it up, and then you can have a decent audit report. And then that grew and grew, and I was in law firms helping lawyers with their accounting. And then they could see I had this technology bent, and they go, how can we do this better? And over a number of years, I had several lawyers say to me, write us a system. You know what we don't like in this one. We know what we don't like in the system the person down the road's using. Write us one that's going to fit. And I tried to push that away and push it away, but no, it wouldn't go away. And so I ended up writing a specification for Wiseau Legal, and someone who is now a top-level lawyer in a firm in Sydney worked with me and put that into pictures so the programmer could understand what we wanted where. And the specification was brought to life by Far Edge Technology in Sydney. And because we were running other businesses at the time, it was a slow journey. But being someone so passionate about technology, I am super, super, super fussy. And so everything just has to work just so. And so I don't have tolerance for half-baked solutions. They've got to work, and they've got to work well. And yeah, Wiseau Legal was born. We incorporated in 2011. But it was quite a long time before we put it into clients' offices because of their rigorous testing process. And then, you know, while we're running the two businesses, there's been a few hiccups along the way, but now our team's expanded, and Wiseau Legal is growing at a fast rate. Ever since we've gotten out of the COVID mess.
So. Awesome, and appreciate the backstory, Karen. It's the entrepreneur's curse, right? Like we try to do multiple things, and what ends up happening is that they all suffer along the way. Until we're willing to or able to deploy the right level of capital to each endeavor. But I think everybody has experienced that in some way, shape, or form. The listeners of this podcast, many of the law firm owners who are listening to the show, have the same thing with their business, right? Like there's so many law firm owners that I talk to who they're still the only attorney in the firm. And I mean, I don't know how hard I can beat it against against the wall. I beat this drum, but basically you're not going to unlock the true level of growth and success that's possible for you until you bring on another accountant. But the failure to deploy the capital to do that, and the capital to do the marketing that's going to support the caseload for that lawyer that they're bringing on, is really the thing that's holding them back. At the end of the day, growing your practice requires investment. And we always want to wait for the safe time to do that when we have enough money coming in to pay for that investment through the money coming in rather than needing to put up new capital. And usually that's the wrong way to do it. Usually it's the, which came first, the chicken or the egg. You got to put the investment in first in order to get the return. So, and when business owners finally learn that, is when they mature into, true entrepreneurs. But it can take people a lot of time to get there. And, and your journey is just um, uh, one and the same with many business owners. I want to I want to talk about technology today. Like I know that's your area of expertise. I know you have a background in accounting. We can talk about trust accounting, but we would bore people to death. I think technology is just a step above boring for us to dive in and talk about. But it's really important, and I know you're passionate about it. So let's set the stage. I mean, where do you think that law firms today, I mean, most law firms today have some practice management software solution. I mean, if somebody starts a law firm and you ask them, like, what do you think you need to get started? I'm guessing practice management software is going to be on their list because we've evolved to the point where I think everybody recognizes why it's necessary. So what's missing? What are the things that technology can do for us that firms are just missing the boat on today when it comes to technological solutions and technology stacks that they might be able to use or implement?
I think the single biggest thing I see is that people say they don't have the time to change. And there's a firm I've worked with in my accounting practice for a very long time, and they won't change their processes. I mean, I've worked with them. I've said, hey, you could do this better. You could do this easier. You could get rid of all these paper files, all the cost of storage, but we're too busy to change. And it goes on and on with this, so many firms that are so similar that they're scared of the downtime, they're scared of the cost, and so they put up with systems that don't serve them. And they continue on intensive manual processes. And they really could buy back their time and spend their time much more effectively if they were to just, okay, let's stop, let's draw a line in the sand, put in a new system, and make it work for us. Obviously, it's not that simple. You've got to do the preparation. And the preparation is really important, but that can be done alongside of things. I know one particular firm who we've spoken to several times over the years. They were then going to take 3 months off doing legal work to change systems. And I'm like, no, that's going to cost you $250,000. You don't need to have that big time gap. Make your choice of when it's going to be, do some prep work, cut your line in the sand, and we can have you live in a week or two. But trusting someone outside of their business to actually lead them by the hand and achieve that, this particular person could not visualize it, and it was really quite sad. And so they've stayed buried in paper files.
So do you think that the problem? I mean, it's at first when you were describing this, I was thinking, wow, I just talked about deploying capital, and it sounds like that's what the real problem is, right? Like, not lack of willingness to take on risk and deploy some capital to make a transition to something new that's better, is the problem. But then at the end of your response, it sounds more like it's not the deployment of the capital that's necessarily the problem. It's the fear of the unknown, the fear of what if somebody screws something up, or thinking that everything needs to be perfect in order to make this in order to make this transition. And what I'm more curious about is what is the contrast between what they're doing today and what's available for them? In other words, there has to be an ROI, right? There has to be if I implement this piece of technology, it's going to allow me to either provide a better level of customer service, customer experience, or it's going to allow me to do something more efficiently, uh, or it's going to do both, right? So, like for example, if I were to introduce a CRM application into the business on the intake side, then it's going to take out a lot of the human aspect of dropping the ball in the sales process because we're going to automate a ton of things and make sure that every lead gets followed up with and gets communicated with, and we're not gonna forget about people along the way, which is a massive problem in the legal industry. So what are you seeing as the areas where if they were to adopt a new technology stack that would improve their business?
I think fear is a big thing. I think the investment of capital, as you've correctly identified, is massive. And I mean, I've been into a lot of law offices and they won't even invest money into improving the office itself. They'll go out and buy the latest Mercedes or the latest Tesla, but the office is neglected. So it's a combination. Fear is a great thing, a great problem. And the lack of vision of being able to see how technology can bring them forward. We can tell them that they're going to save a person, an admin person, by automating and going paperless, but the ability to believe that that can actually work really struggles. I've written a blog about a firm's paperless journey, and the tipping point was actually acquiring PDF Exchange, which the team could all work with. And they had all the scanners, the equipment, but having an on-screen product that actually served the purpose of doing work papers on screen and being able to write on things without having to print them out to write on them was the tipping point, which I've just described in my steps to going paperless. And, that was several years down the road, and the intention had been there on this business. And it wasn't until that one piece of software was employed that all the intentions that had all been there that were genuine, one piece of software and off and running in 2 weeks. And they went paperless.
It's a great example. What's the next thing, right? What's the thing that is going to get firms off and running now and today in 2024? What's the new the latest and greatest technology tool that is going to make the stark difference in what they can do and how they do it?
I think one of the big things is learning to read on screen. And that is probably the hardest thing for people trying to go paperless, because, people over the age of 35 or 40, they have learned their craft printing it out, highlighting stuff on a piece of paper with pen, highlighter, what have you, and learning to do that on screen and transferring it to the screen without printing every single piece of paper to be able to absorb it is one of the hardest parts of it. But once you realize that, hey, I can actually go into state and keep working. I can go overseas and keep working if I'm not dependent on the printed piece of paper. I think you need a trigger that's going to help you make that leap of faith.
So behind the scenes of your answer is going paperless the thing that is going to move the needle for firms? I mean, that there's a lot of firms who are already paperless, right? Like, what if they are already paperless? And I mean, there's a whole movement of uh, being able to practice law from anywhere, being able to be a digital nomad and still practice law. There's a lot of people who go into, things like trademarks um, uh, and federal type matters so that they could move anywhere in the world or in the US and still be able to practice rather than the specific locale that they're in. Um, but and I don't know how things are on your side of the world as far as the adoption of technology and the elimination of paper. And I don't have a study, right? I didn't do a study. I don't remember in any of the recent legal trends reports that I've read that any study has been done on firms that are paperless versus firms that are still using paper. So I don't know what the level of adoption is, but in your opinion, what what's the next thing for firms who are already paperless?
For the firms that are already paperless, it's just making sure that the systems they have in place are serving them as best they can. We don't want lawyers having to type names and addresses in every single letter when we've got that in the matter. And if we're merging into Word, that we're pre-populating all the standard stuff. There's so much that needs to be done for a law firm to work through a matter. And we want to keep the lawyers focused on doing the value adds and not just being administration monkeys.
So what's missing or what's the solution there? Like what I is this is the key having a piece of software that does the fields right so that merges can happen correctly? Is that what we're talking about? I'm just trying to understand from an outsider's perspective looking in, and somebody who's listening to this, they're like, I'm already paperless. I already got software that's running my firm. I already got, I'm automating the processes. What else? I mean, legal has been playing catch up. What are other industries doing that we're not doing yet today in law and we should be doing?
One of my philosophies is question everything. Why am I doing this? How am I adding value? Am I doing it the best way possible? And that mindset has been with me all of my life, all of my career. And as I introduce that mindset to clients, both legal and non-legal, it's like, you've given me this here. What value is this adding? How much time is it taking you? Is there a better way? And, paperless is the big hurdle, but certainly the continuous improvement cycle is going to help everyone to, be more efficient and have a better experience in the workplace. Because if you question everything and keep unloading the boring run-of-the-mill cookie cutter stuff, then you're going to have a better experience and you're going to be able to focus more on your client's need. And at the end of the day, you go home feeling that you've made somebody's world better. And I think we all like that.
Yeah, absolutely. In your experience, when a law firm is adopting new technology, um, how much are they trying to take on doing themselves, and how much are they, willing to outsource to have someone else do? I think that one of the big barriers that happens is, we tend to always fall into this trap of when we need to do something, we try to figure out how we're going to do it. And there's a great book out there that's called Who Not How. And we'll link that up in the show notes. But it's really that question that drives the success of successful businesses. When we're always asking the question of who can do this for me rather than how do I do this? Because
Mm.
if I get the person or company or solution that already has the expertise to get it done, then it's simply a matter of me being willing to pay for it, and they're going to do it. Kind of like that example that you
Mm.
gave of your client who, like they didn't want to take the next step because they had to close down their firm for 3 months. And we both know that that's ludicrous, right? Like it's insane. You should not have to stop doing your work at all to be able to have a new piece of technology in place.
They
There's
couldn't
a
see another option, and it was quite sad. We workshopped it with them multiple times, but yeah, they just decided to stay with the old.
Um, but it all boils down to a lack of willingness to bring in and trust an expert to get it done for you,
Mm.
right? Like there's no reason why you can't have all of your staff go through training leading up to a new piece of software being introduced. Every single business out there does it. I mean, look at the healthcare industry. I mean, they change the software they're using to run their businesses like we change underwear. I mean, they literally are changing their systems all the time, always trying to get the thing that's going to give them an edge, make them one step more efficient. But every time they do that, they got to put everybody through the training and they got to prepare them. In legal, it's the same thing. If you're going to introduce something new, everybody needs to know how to use it the day you go live. You need to prepare. You need to have the nuances of it worked out. Yeah, there's going to be bugs. There's going to be things that you need to fix. Processes that you need to improve once it's live. But you should never have to stop doing business in any industry at any point for the adoption of new technology.
I
Um,
couldn't agree more.
yeah. So,
I
uh,
laugh at your I smile at you're talking about everybody has to do the training. Really, you can't say that loud enough. You can't say that firmly enough. I've been involved with so many law firms where the lawyers are too busy to get involved with the training. And then they get cranky and they hate the new system and they can't use it and it doesn't work. And it all is because we're too busy to do the training. And I've seen that happen many, many, many times. And then the lawyers lose control of their business because they haven't done the training. And no, they don't have to keep doing it on an ongoing basis. But as a business owner, I think it's really good to see how something works. And the business owner is also the one best placed to ask the why questions. Why are we doing this? Why do you recommend this? How is it going to benefit the business?
yeah, I feel like there needs to be a return for everything, right? There always needs to
Mm.
be something that's going to benefit us either through better experience for the customers or more efficient ways to do things, that we're either going to save money on the expense side where money's going out, or we're going to bring new money in that we couldn't bring in before because of the solution. Um, and training, I honestly I think the solution is that leadership starts at the top. And probably this is, when new software needs to be adopted or new technology needs to be adopted, the conversation about having the staff get trained, and that mandate coming down needs to come from the top. It needs to come from the owner of the business, or the partners that own the business. And they need, and it's on them to step up as leaders and make sure that everybody does their part. If they want it to be successful, I mean, that needs to be impressed upon them from the get-go, that that's the key to success, is,
Mm.
having users that are knowledgeable in how to use the system. Otherwise, you're right. I mean, it's going to sit there. They're not going to use it. Um, and, the lawyers are going to just do what they know how to do and practice law, and they're not going to enter their time, and they're not going to communicate with clients through the system. And they're not, like, it'll be a fiasco. Invoicing's not going to get done. Clients are going to not be communicated with. They're not going to know what's going on. And then support staff can't help the attorney because
Mm.
the system that they're supposed to be using is not being used. So it really doesn't help anything. There's no ROI when you spend money to install something, but nobody knows how to use it, and therefore it doesn't
Mm.
get used.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, so
And there
Karen, as
must be
we
ROI on everything.
yeah, absolutely. Is that something that you do, is help them to see the ROI? Like, I know when I was in sales and technology, one of the things that I always tried to do was to have a formula or a spreadsheet that I could ask them questions. Like, I mean, I remember when um, phones were first becoming digital, right? We were just going to VoIP, voice over IP, and we had these cool systems now that had integrated IVR systems, which is the interactive voice response system. Kind of like if you call in somewhere and they
It's
give
a
you
menu.
a menu of choices, but you can input like your credit card information, and then it'll tell you what your balance is, right? That's an IVR. So we were going to medical offices and saying, hey, we can install this for you, and with this IVR system, we can automate appointment confirmations. And I built a calculator out to demonstrate how many more appointments they would have that didn't cancel or no show because they were called the day before to remind them about the appointment. And through that, we were able to just ask them, how many appointments do you have a day? How many no shows do you have a day? And spit out a calculator that would show them that if you invest this $20,000 or $30,000 in the system, it would pay for itself in 2.3 months. So is that the kind of thing that you're helping your clients with, to see, to be able to help them calculate that ROI so that they could see where the payoff is?
We've actually got a cost of interruption calculator on our website, and we can put the link in the credits. And what it does is it says how many lawyers, if you got back how many hours a week for how many lawyers, at what rate, how much extra money that would put on your bottom line. And yeah, it's a fascinating tool, because if you can put 2 hours of extra productivity on every single lawyer in your firm, that multiplies over the year, and it very quickly adds up and becomes more profit for your firm.
Yeah, I could see that ballooning very quickly and into a serious number. So how does a lawyer get back 2 hours? I'm assuming we're talking about per week. Um, how does an attorney get two more billable hours in a week with the adoption of a new technology?
By being able to focus more on his billable work, um, and have the software do more of the mundane for him.
For example?
Um, Automating your billing, having your time recorded as you go. There are so many law firms, even today, that will have a big matter and they work out the bill at the end. And just even to get them to input their time as they go, so that at the end, you just, here's the bill, or every month, here's the bill. Because, yeah, that can take, I've seen it take days and weeks to fix up a bill on a big matter, big car accident matter, and there's a very big payout because somebody's lost a limb. And, they're so busy doing the work on the file that they've then got to have a week downtime to work out the bill. And, it takes them offline. And if they do it as they go, that could be part of what is billed to the client instead of being an overhead at the end. We've talked before about the automation from Word, not having to type every letter from the beginning, having your templates set up properly so they all pre-fill with all the essential information, and the lawyer can get in and add their value. Having your trust account automated so that it comes the end of the month, it's a short process by the bookkeeper, and just to wrap it all up, and you're not wasting hours trying to balance things.
Yeah, that's a big one. Karen, this has been a great conversation, but unfortunately we're at the tail end of our allotted time here. What I'd like to do when we close it out is offer you two opportunities to share with our audience. The first is one parting piece of advice or wisdom that you'd like to leave with them, and the second is, how do people find out more about you, Wise Owl Legal Practice Management, if they're curious about the product that you have, the software company, and what and the power that it has. What are the next steps that somebody should take to take the next steps with you?
Thanks, Moshe. Parting advice: technology can be your friend. If you get someone who is passionate about technology, like myself, tease it out and get the consultant to walk you through the options. When a technologist or a consultant is working with you, and they say they can save you money, push them. How? Tell me why. Tell me how. Even if you've got to be a bit argumentative to try and pull it out of them, why they're so convinced. Because as a lawyer, consultants like myself have seen so many areas where we can save law firms money. And lawyers are good extracting information from people. So extract it from the consultants that are in front of you, telling you that we can save you money. Because you'll get, if you give yourself time to get to the bottom of it, the rewards are massive. Be it time that you're looking for, or be it money that you're looking for. And how to find out more? My email is karen@wiseowllegal.com.au. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Happy to have a conversation, and happy to give you a link to have a conversation with me at a time that works for you.
Awesome, Karen. Thank you so much, folks. We are here every single Thursday with a brand new episode. Make sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player so that you get notified when we release our next episode. We will see you next Thursday. Every Thursday morning is when we drop that new episode for you. Until then, take care. And actually, one more little blurb we'll throw out for you. All of these episodes are published on YouTube as well. We have a YouTube channel. You can find it at profitwithlaw.com/YouTube. We also have exclusive content specifically for YouTube that's going out there. My team has been doing a lot of really good work with the YouTube Shorts. Those are really, really short snippets. But what they're doing is they're scouring all of our previous podcast episodes, all of our Law Firm Growth Summit events, all of our coaching calls, and really extracting some really juicy, short pieces of information that, I mean, just watching one short can really change your entire life when it comes to your business, by introducing a new thought, topic, concept that you didn't think of before. So we invite you to go dive into our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button there as well, profitwithlaw.com/YouTube. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye now.